Alright, let's try and make this one quick. These are my thoughts on Tintin and the Temple of the Sun. So, yeah, so this is a Tintin movie, and I did cover one once before, but I have retroactively decided that that one does not count as, or yeah, basically it doesn't count because you know there's no English translation in that one. So any like I've tried watching some movies without any translations, but yeah, I can't. So um yeah, here's one that actually does have an English translation. It's an English dub. Um the sound the audio is kind of weird in that, like the music and sound effects kind of go in through the right ear, and the dialogue comes in through the left one. So it's weird when you're listening to the movie through earbuds. Um, but either way, yeah, it was, I got used to it. So yeah, the story is, Tintin. There's these Peruvian artifacts that come from this temple, and yeah, all these scientists who explored the temple, they seemingly got cursed, and and sorry, I do think the plot might be a little hard to describe, but I'll, bear with me. Um, so yeah, so Tintin meets with one of the scientists, along with Captain Haddock, the Thompsons, and Professor Calculus. Professor Calculus puts on this armband or something, this or yeah, amulet, and and then suddenly he just gets kidnapped by these bad guys. Um, or or yeah, they're like people who apparently work for the temple, um, and yeah, the whole story is basically Tintin and Captain Haddock, the Thompsons, and also this Peruvian kid they meet along the way. Finding the temple, try to save Calculus, um, and yeah, and that's pretty much all there really is to the plot. It's a basic plot, but the directions it goes in are varied enough. It's your typical action adventure. Um, you know, it's basically proto Indiana Jones in a way. Um, but yeah, it's a very enjoyable plot, and an interesting thing about this movie is that well, let me see. It is based on one of the Tintin comics, um, and most of the Tintin comics do have like their own villains, but this is one of the rare ones that doesn't have like an official villain, just you know antagonists who aren't really necessarily evil, but they have some customs that serve as a bit of an issue for our heroes. Um, But yeah, it's kind of interesting that they picked that comic to, adapt into a movie. Um, uh, so, the animation is nice. It's not great, but I think it's very smooth and, yeah, for a Tintin movie, it's pretty nice. Yeah, I think I think the animation's pretty good. Um, the music's solid. There's a nice little theme song, and the Peruvian music is good too. Yeah, I did really like the Peruvian music, and there's some nice little glimpses into Peruvian culture as well. Even though you could definitely say there's probably some Peruvian, South American, generally foreign stereotypes in there. Um, in fact, I think throughout the movie they call them Indians. That definitely doesn't sound right by today's standards. Um, I mean, yeah, I know we called Native Americans Indians, but well, we don't do that anymore. And yeah, definitely wouldn't associate South America with the real India. Anyway, um, so yeah, it's some slightly culturally insensitive stuff in there. But yeah, it's based on this really old comic. They probably even updated it a bit to be a bit more respectful to South Americans. Um, and the characters are all great. You know, I mean Tintin's a little boring, but I don't know. He's also adventurous. He's energetic. I do like his voice actor. He's like he's got this adventurous, spirited British accent. Um, Captain Haddock is always fun. The Thompsons are amusing. Professor Calculus is quite entertaining in the very little screen time he gets. I did watch the Tintin cartoon from the early 90s, so, I at least have a general idea of the story. I only watched it once. I watched through it when it was on Netflix. Um, but yeah, Professor Calculus was probably my favorite character in there, so it's kind of a shame there wasn't more of him in this movie, but whatever. Again, it's how it was written in the comics, so I won't complain. Um, and I don't know if there's much else to say. I mean, I think it's a good story overall, and the animation's nice, the music's nice, the culture, while it might not be the most sensitive portrayal of South American culture, I still like it. I mean, it's a lot more entertaining than Saludos Amigos, even though that movie probably had a slightly, well, I don't know. But yeah, I don't know if there's really much else I have to talk about it. This is, yeah, it's just a very enjoyable movie based on what I would probably say is a great comic series. I mean, sure, I never read the comics, but I've seen the adaptations, and I do really like the stories that come from, you know, yeah, the stories that make up the adaptation. So I assume the comics must be great as well. Maybe I'll check them out someday. Um, but yeah, as usual, if there's anything else that I realize I might have forgotten that I should have talked about, then I'll put it in the comments. Sorry. Um, and yeah, I think I give this movie an 8 out of 10, 7 at the least, but yeah, kind of leaning towards an 8. Um, and yeah, if you're a fan of Tintin or just you know, action adventure in general, Indiana Jones stuff, yeah, definitely give this movie a watch. Um, and before I sign off, I must point out that this appears to be the last animated movie of the 60s. Um, there actually is one more that's like supposedly might have come after this one, but it's called The Non-Existent Night, and um, but I can't find any English translations online or anything, or any DVDs to buy. Um, it is there is like this. There are several videos. It's like separated into segments on YouTube. Several videos of you know the movie. But yeah, no translation. So, which is a shame. It looks interesting from what little I saw. But anyway, I guess I won't worry about that right now. So yeah, I guess that's it for the '60s, and yeah, I guess we're moving on to the '70s now, um, and I guess I can expect a lot more pornographic stuff as we go through this decade, and also a lot of psychedelic stuff. So, yep, the '60s have been a very interesting decade to cover, and you know, while I will say most of the movies in this decade have been pretty mixed in quality, I've seen a couple really good gems, Horace, Yellow Submarine, etc. But yeah, it's been an interesting decade to talk about. I look forward to doing my countdown lists of like the best and worst movies of this decade. So yeah, I guess that's all I need to say for now. So until then, mash and smash it, signing off.